So our fourth album is Drive To Goldenhammer by Divorce. This is my pick. It could have been Karl's, because I know, obviously being a Nottingham-based band, you're very familiar with them. And actually my sort of entry point was your recommendation, and then seeing, to my absolute shock, that they were playing in Reading, and Reading had booked a kind of up and coming band, which doesn't happen that often. So yeah, piqued my interest. Saw them live. Very impressed with that live show at the end of last year, I think it was. And yeah, just felt it's been a bit of a tradition as well with our March album of the month podcast, that we have kind of the debut album. So 2023, that was Boy Genius, which kind of universally acclaimed outside of this group. Then last year we had The Last Dinner Party with their debut album, of course, So Much Exposure, and again broadly enjoyed by the three of us, and that sort of leveled it out. So yeah, third kind of debut album for the March album of the month pod, and how we feel. I mean, for myself, really impressed. I think this is a great first without being a classic. It's right up there. And I think, in terms of what debuts there might be this year, albeit the first album we've spoken about was a debut, but we're very familiar with Brian Daddario. This feels like, a more kind of unknown territory in terms of getting a full release. They've released a few EPs with loads of great tracks on. So how are they going to fare here? And a lot of them have been out as singles. So I suppose maybe half of it was quite familiar anyway, and really been hammered home. But on Drive to Goldenhammer, I think it comes across really well. I like how the placing of the various songs and the singles, and yeah, it just showcases what they do best. The kind of shared vocals, front man and front woman here, and got a nice thing going on in that indie space, I suppose, sort of similar vein to English Teacher from last year. To go a bit further back, I get shades of The Beautiful South, and I would say that her name escapes me right now. The female vocalist. Sorry? Tiger. Yeah, I knew it was one I should have remembered. She I think her vocals win the day. Although I do really like how they sort of overlap, and I do like the songs where the guy takes the lead. But for me, it's more of a Tiger show here, and that's where you get those moments which saw, I'm thinking probably mainly Karen here, which isn't about a certain type of person, but it's more about someone they know, and that's a really great kind of vehicle for the range which she has. And I think her range is far greater than her co-vocalist. But I think there's kind of few which go better than the singles. So the depth is maybe not as great as it might have been. But that's a hugely high bar to so it's only a slight criticism, and I feel harsh even saying that, because like I say, the singles are absolutely fantastic. Some of the best singles which have been released over the past sort of 6 to 9 months. Antarctica, All My Freaks being the absolute standout for me, and Hangman as well, another great one, and then Pill was one of the latter releases. But yeah, the only one, like I say, probably Karen is the only other one which sort of is at that level. And then the rest are all just great songs. The only one which might Drift a little bit, probably Mercy, the last song at the end. Just didn't really grab me as much as everything else they did. But I think it's hard to kind of pin them down to one genre or one type of. There's just so much going on here, and I think what I like about them is that they don't sit still. They in one song you get one influence and they talk about country music and their interest there, and you get a little bit of that, and maybe in one song, and in another it's just a straight up sort of rock tune, and yeah, I think what they're producing is very much their own, and that's probably the biggest compliment I can hand them. I would say is that they've got something quite unique going on, and yeah, just hugely impressed with this as an opening salvo, and a band are really excited to see where they go next. So I'm seeing a few nods and smiles from Karl, who I'm going to go to next.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's one of those where, the Nottingham music scene is just really having a moment right now. We have so many great artists and acts coming through, and yeah, it's great to see a good chunk of them getting the national attention and exposure that they are getting. I think Divorce are the one that are right at the forefront of that. Definitely one of them, as you say, Andrew, one of the most talked about kind of like new indie bands coming through. Had that like NME cover the other month. The tour for later on in the year is quickly selling out. You mentioned the reviews for this album, outstanding as well. And yeah, I think it's thoroughly deserved. Just brilliant live band. And I think this is a very accomplished, fully formed debut that I thought it would be as well. You mentioned their EPs. I think they really laid the groundwork, and I feel like they've mastered their style in the last few years before getting to this point. Just this country and folk influenced indie with those, amazing harmonies that you mentioned between Felix and Tiger. They just bounce off each other so well. And they both have, for me, they both have great tones to their voices. But yeah, ultimately, I think what stands out with this collection is, similar to what stood out from the Last Dinner Party's debut last year, was that, these songs all feel like instantly familiar. It can sometimes be a curse to release so many singles before the album arrives, but I've played this album so much. I still love these songs. The way they flow into the pace of the record is just perfect. I think they do a great job of, staggering those singles throughout the record as well. You kind of got Antarctica and Lord, straight at the top. And then that run, as you mentioned, of like Hangman, Pill, All My Freaks in the back half. I think it just paces the record really nicely. And then for me, yeah, I mean, for me, it's actually some of the less familiar moments that end up hitting the hardest. Absolutely love Jet Show. Just some fantastic guitars on there. Feels like a real hoedown. And then you've got a song like complete contrast in Old Broken String, which, Felix takes the lead on that one. Like similar, it's kind of like the counterpoint to Karen with Tiger taking the lead. That's the one that Felix takes the lead on. And it's just, yeah, heartbreakingly tender, beautifully arranged, beautifully written. And yeah, probably my favorite of the unreleased tracks, that one. And then, to be honest, Mercy right at the end, spiritual title track too. It is maybe more understated than like what comes before it. But just that raw kind of acoustic guitar with Felix and Tiger's harmonies on that track. I absolutely love that one as well. I think, yeah, I won't go on too much more because we kind of covered it, but I'd say the only track that I'm not completely sold on is Where Do You Go? I think it's one of those that I like it enough as a standalone cut, and Tiger absolutely puts her all into the performance of it. Like her vocal performance on that track is like, reminds me a bit of St. Vincent, which is obviously never a bad thing. Like just real, the emphasis on and the growl that she puts into it. But I think it just, every time I get to that point in the track list, it just sticks out. It's a very different style to everything else that's comes before and then Mercy after it. It just doesn't quite fit in with the album for me. I think if it was up to me, I would have put Gears, which is the standalone single that they did release just before the album. I'd maybe put that in that spot just to kind of continue that. But that's the only one for me that feels maybe slightly shoehorned and out of place. But, you know, like you say, Andrew, minor quibbles is what we've got here. It hasn't stopped me playing this album to death ever since it came out. Fully expect it to be nominated for the Mercury Prize later this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. And yeah, just a fantastic debut from a Nottingham band. And yeah, very bright future ahead for these guys.
Okay, guys, that's the view from Nottingham and then the wider UK. But yeah, over to Santa Fe and Kiley and yeah, the quibbles. So ours are minor. Minor or major for you, Kiley, on this record?
I'll be the outlier. Major.
Major.
I just a little sidebar before I get into this. Karl, when you were going over your other albums of the month, you made me poop a little bit because I thought we were talking about Green Tea Pang. And here I was looking forward to, for the last week, seeing the praises of Andrew for picking that record, because I absolutely love that album, and it's going to be one of my. I know I'm going to be playing it all summer. I've been listening to it a couple times a week. So Green Tea Pang, we could be talking about that. I thought we were. With that being said, yeah, I did listen to this record a couple of times last month. And I don't know what it is. I wanted to like it because they are a Knots band, and Karl, you've made me more curious about what's going on there, and it's fun to hear about that scene. And so I was glad Andrew picked it. I was looking, I thought it was the Pulp. Anyway, yeah, I'm complete opposite of you guys. This is just major label indie music that goes one ear and out the other to me. And, I will say, I think the songs when Tiger is singing are much stronger and much more captivating, hold my attention. But when Felix, no personal, hate to Felix, but when I see major label indie rock, like that's when I just zone out, are those Felix songs. So yeah, with a couple of listens last month, because I thought we were going to talk about Green Tea Pang. Yeah, not a fan of this record, and it's funny. I think this is also just another one of those that they're hitting it huge in the UK, and as far as I know, not really making a splash over here. So, I haven't read anything about them outside of the pod and reading some reviews when it came out. So, yeah, maybe more Tiger songs. And I do have to say as well, I did go back because, all the reviews cited how different the EPs were from this record. And Andrew, you mentioning Boy Genius, that debut in March. I feel the exact same way about Boy Genius and Divorce. Is give me the EPs, the LP, not really my thing.
Yeah, and I think, Karl mentioned as well, like Gears could easily have made the cut. Like from the EPs, there's so many good tracks, and it can sometimes be a risk to kind of ignore that to move on. But so I think there's a bit of a balance because of how many singles there are off this album. But yeah, definitely could have just not even added any of the non-singles if they'd have added in an EP as well. Done a bit of a Bon Iver, but that's for me. So there we go. A mixed bag for.
Let's say 2/3 pretty good.
2/3, okay. Just like Def Heaven there. So
yeah.